morning everybody, it's Iain at RTO. Welcome to Wednesday. Wednesday's one thing, Marathon Wednesday. And we got a long one today. It's part 2 of Jon Lord. So we're looking at Deep Purple, of course. Deep Purple were formed in 1968 when they were called Roundabout. There was an idea from Chris Curtis, who used to play with the drums with Searchers, to have this band where you'd got a nucleus of musicians and everyone else hopped on and off. So the other people involved with this crazy idea was Jon Lord and Ritchie Blackmore. It didn't last long. Chris went off and did whatever he did, and they brought in Ian Pace on drums, Nick Simper and Rod Evans, and they changed the names to Deep Purple, and the rest is history. So we've got 21 albums to look at, so we better get cracking today. So coming in at number 21 then is the 13th album released by Deep Purple in 1990, Slaves and Masters. It's the only one that featured Joe Lynn Turner. Upon this was Joe Lynn Turner, Ritchie Blackmore, Roger Glover, Ian Pace and Jon Lord. First track on the album, it's my favourite track, King of Dreams. Great performance by Joe Lynn Turner on this. Some really good typical Ritchie Blackmore riffs. Pretty damn good track. Second track is The Cut Runs Deep. Nice keyboard from Jon on this, but it's too much like a Rainbow song, I'm afraid. Fire in the Basement, again, it's too much like Rainbow, although Jon Lord's keyboard work is absolutely at the top drawer on this one. Okay, Truth Hurts, very good guitar solo by Ritchie Blackmore, but it's not a Deep Purple song, as simple as that. Breakfast in Bed, that's one of the weaker tracks on the album, not the best one. Love Conquers All, again this track is just not Deep Purple. It's too commercial, it's too lovey-dovey for a Purple song, except Jon keyboard work is good in this. Fortune Teller, great performance by Jon on this one, but again it's just too much like a Rainbow track for me, too Rainbow, not Purple. And I love both bands, but wrong album. Too Much Love isn't not enough. This is a better track. This is more like it, bit more rocky. Jon's work, of course, is absolutely on the mark, and his interplay with Ritchie on this is really, really good. Wicked Ways, again, a really nice track, good rocker, but it's just not Deep Purple. Okay, this album, I'm not going to say too much about it. All I'm going to say is it's a poor Deep Purple album, but a very good Rainbow album, and I'll leave it at that. So I'll give it an RTO ranking of 4.5. Okay, coming in at number 20 then, the 12th album, released in 1987, House of the Blue Light. It's the second recording of the reformed Mark II lineup, and the 6th overall by this version of the band. So it's Ian Gillan, Ritchie Blackmore, Roger Glover, Jon Lord and Ian Pace. First track on the album is Bad Attitude. Love that start, that really rich keyboard sound, great guitar riffs. Ian Gillan's on fire on this, but what actually makes this song is right at the end, that last piece with that Nice keyboard run by John Lord, really lifts the track. It's the best track on the album. Okay, coming next is The Unwritten Law. Great drumming from Mr. Pace on this. They did this live and I saw them, and it's just brilliant live. Great guitar work from Richie on this. Nice solo as well. Call of the Wild. No, this is probably one of the worst tracks I ever made. It's just too commercial, too corny, but I did like the video. Very clever. Then we get Mad Dog. Great track. That opening riff from Richie Blackmore is unbelievable, and then you get some great keyboards from John again. Brilliant. Black or White. Very good track. Nice harmonica from Ian Gillan. Hard Loving Woman. It's alright. Not my favourite track. Spanish Archer. I do like this one. It's a little bit different. It's got that. It's got a real fast pace to it. Ian Pace drums really sets the pace, and he keeps the tempo going. Some great Hammond organ on this, of course. Brilliant. Strange Rays. It's interesting. It's not my favourite track, but I do like John's keyboard work on it. Then we get a fantastic track, Mitzi Dupree, with a great bluesy sound. So you get the bluesy guitar of Richie and the lovely piano work by John. Brilliant. Then we get Dead or Alive. Well, a bit of a filler to me. So that was that album. What can I say about it? It's not a rubbish album. It's not a brilliant album. It's got some great tracks on it. I mean, I love all the Deep Purple albums, but I love got them in a, you know, this is how I personally like them. So it's not a bad album, and I'll give it an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay, coming in at number 19, I'm heading for the drink already. 1993 then, 14th album, The Battle Rages On. This is the last album of the classic Mark II lineup. So this was a weird one because they got Ian Gillan back in for this. Well, the management did, because it was their, I think it was their 30th anniversary. They'd got Joe Lynn Turner had done some tracks. They'd even got a guy called Mike DeMeo to do some singing. So they had to rework the whole album. And I think there's a lot of tension with this. So this came out in 1993, and it was Richie Blackmore's last ever album with Deep Purple. So the lineup, of course, was Gillan, Blackmore, Lord, Glover and Pace. The Battle Rages On. Love that rich Hammond organ at the start. Some really good riffs from Ian, Richie, and the vocal from Ian is fantastic. Lick It Up, solid track. Just great riffing again. Then we get Anya, my favourite song. I love the little bit of a Spanish guitar at the beginning, and the nice little delicate touches on the keyboards and Mr. Lord, and then it goes into a great little rock track. Fantastic. Talk About Love, more ripping riffs from Richie, not too bad. Time to Kill, love this track. The highlight, of course, is the keyboard solo at the end from John. Really makes this track. That lovely rich Hammond sound just sounds brilliant on this. Ramshackle Man, great guitar work from Richie, of course. And then you get some lovely touches on the Hammond organ again from John. Twisting the Tail, not my favourite track on the album, a little bit mediocre for me. nasty piece of work. This is a strong track. Best bit on here is John Lord's Hammond organ again. That richness comes through the track. Let me get Solitaire. This is a little bit different, but it's one of my favourite tracks on the album. It's a little bit different. The vocal from Iain on here is brilliant. Then we get One Man's Meat. Classic Blackmore riff on this. It sounds very much like a Man on the Silver Mountain sort of riff. And then you get John's delicate keyboard touches. This is a very underrated album, but you can feel that there's a lot of tension in this album, and when you saw them on the tour, the tension was unbelievable. I saw them at Birmingham NEC. I've got a recording of it, and if you've got that recording, you know that the first part, Rishi doesn't come out. They spend the entire evening ignoring each other, and it made for what was the last time I'd see the Mark II lineup. It didn't feel right. The gig was not that particularly brilliant, which was a shame because they played some really good tracks. But I do like some of the tracks on this album, so I'll give it an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 18 is the 17th album, released in 2003. This was the first album to feature Don Airey, who had taken over from our dear John. So this has got Ian Gillan, Steve Morse, Roger Glover, Ian Pace and Don Airey. First track on the album, House of Pain. I love that opening riff, and Ian Gillan's screeching away as good as ever, and then he just fades out into something that's not particularly good, which is a shame. Sun Goes Down, not a bad track. Haunted, pretty ordinary that one is. That doesn't do much for me at all. Razzle Dazzle, it's got a nice little catchy tune to it. Silver Tongue, really good track. The interplay between Don Airey, Steve Morse is really good. Don Airey's just finding his feet into this band, although he toured with them, of course, helping out when he did half a show with Purple and John did the other. Walk On, it's not my favourite track. Then we get my favourite track, Picture of Innocent. It's got a great riff, it's got a great hook. Don Airey really is playing well on this, and this one's actually got a writing credit to John Lord. Really, really good song. I've Got Your Number, again John Lord contributed to this. Another great melody, fantastic song. Never a Word. It's a really good track, but it's not one that you'd actually thought you'd find on a Deep Purple album, more on an Ian Gillan solo album, but I do like the track, it is really good. Title track Bananas, solid rocker, some nice harmonica. I always love listening to Ian Gillan on harmonica. Doing It Tonight, solid rock riff, got a hook to it, brilliant. Then we get the brilliant Contact Lost. I love the guitar solo from Steve Morse on this, really great guitar player, nice instrumental. This is an album of two halves. I just think the second part of the album is much stronger and's got the better tracks. Don't dislike the whole album, but I think that the latter part of the album is the best part. So I'll give this an RTO ranking of 7.2. Okay, coming in at number 17, 16th album, Abandon, released in 1998. Steve's second album, and it was John's last recordings with Deep Purple. So you've got Gillan, Morse, Lord, Glover and Pace. Now this album is quite dark for a Deep Purple album. I like it, but it's got some of John's finest work. Went out on a high, but some of the tracks are quite dark, and that's it. So we'll go through them. Any fool know that. Some of John's great keyboards on this. Almost Human. Love this song. It's got some great driving bass from Roger Glover. That chunky guitar from Morse. And in the background you've got the dulcet tones of Mr. Lord. Don't Make Me Happy. Again, I like this track. It's a bluesy number. Iain Gillan's voice sounds brilliant. His voice has changed obviously over the years. I mean, all that screeching didn't do it any good, but they've sorted out how they write songs now, and I'd say he's one of the old rock singers that's adapted his voice to his range now, and this is great. This is a great example. Seventh Heaven, again, the highlight of this has to be John Lord. That it's got such a rich, deep Hammond sound on it. Brilliant. Watching the Sky, really got a 70s feel to this. The Hammond organs driving away, screeching solo from Steve Morse. Great stuff. Fingers to the Bone. This is one of them quieter songs, and John's versatility as a keyboard player is wonderful. The delicate piano on this sounds wonderful and lifts this song from a mediocre song to a good song. Then we get the best track on the album, Jack Ruby. This song is all about pace and Lord. One final fling, and they pull it off brilliantly. It is an absolutely belter of a track. She was. That's all right. What's Her Name? Solid rock track. Again, it's been enhanced by that deep Hammond. 69. It's a mediocre track. Evil Louie. Lovely to hear that deep Hammond organ for the last time by John Lord on an original track, because the last track is actually a remake of Bloodsucker. Do I really need to hear this remake? No. Okay, it's a bit of a mixed bag for John's last album. As I said, it's a little bit darker, darker lyrics, but it doesn't take it away that it's a great album. I don't dislike it, as I said. I'll just prefer some of the other ones better. But it was great to hear John for the last time. And I'll give this an RTO ranking of 7.4. Okay, coming in at number 16, released in 1968. It's the debut album, Shades of Deep Purple. So this is Mark 1, so we've got Rod Evans, Richie Blackmore, John Law, Nick Simper and Ian Pace. First track is an instrumental called And the Address, dominated by Blackmore and Lord. I don't know if this was just a free-for-all, but it sounds great. The interplay between these two guys has always been incredible. Even on that bad gig I saw them on, them two were on fire. Then we get, of course, over the track that everybody knows, Hush. Great version of this song. I like the remade version with Ian Gillan sing on it better, but that's another story. One More Rainy Day. The only decent thing on this is John's keyboard playing. Apart from that, it's a pretty poor track. Then we get Prelude, Happiness, I'm So Glad. Okay, the Happiness isn't too bad, but I do give them the choice that I'm So Glad sounds really good. Pretty solid track. Then we get a brilliant track. I love this track, Mandrake Root. Love the solo from Richie on this. Keyboards and drums, fantastic. But what lets this down is Rod Evans' vocals. I've got a lot. Well, obviously, I've got a live version of this with Iain singing on it. It's far better track. Then we get Help. I don't like this version at all. It's not. Help to me should be a fun track, not this. This is just a dirge. Just don't like listening to it. Love Help Me. It's not a bad track. And then we get Hey Joe. First bit of it sounds more like Right Rabbit, Jefferson Airplane. And then when they actually go into Hey Joe, it just doesn't flow right. Not my favourite track. So obviously this is quite a poppy 60s sounding album, but there's tracks that are written by the band sound good. The musically they are spot on. You knew what was going to come from them listening to this, and I'll give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, coming in at number 15 then, it's the second album, released in October 68, Book of Taliesyn, well, how you pronounce it. So it's Evans, Blackmore, Lord, Simper and Pace. First track, Listen, Learn, Read. Listen, learn, skip. It's not very good at all. Then we get my favourite track on the album, Wring That Neck. Or as in America it came out as Hard Road. Don't ask me why. This was the first track that really defined where Deep Purple wanted to go, and Ritchie Blackmore. Full of great guitar licks. John Lord is on fire. Ian Pace sounds great. Even Nick on the bass. This is great. Third track, Kentucky Woman, cover of the Neil Diamond song. Much better version, really good track. Then we get a little medley thing, Exposition, sorry. This is really good. Again, you've got Blackmore and Lord playing off each other, and then it just goes into nothing. The bit is that exposition, it just sounds like a jam to me. Then they go into We Can Work It Out, and it's probably the worst version of that song I have ever heard in my life. Shield. If you recognise the drum beat, they actually used it in Black Knight. Ian Pace just mucked around with it. It's a pretty good track, except the vocals are pretty poor, I'm afraid. Bit like Anthem, John Lord's lifts this track because the vocal on it is pretty poor. Then we get a cover of River Deep, Mountain High, the Tina Turner cover. The instrumental part of this at the start is just classic Lord and Blackmore. But when Rod starts singing, it just lacks something. A mixed bag of goodies on this. Musically, it's starting to sound really good and heavy, but the vocals do sadly let it down. But for the music, I'll give it an RTO ranking of 8.2. Okay, coming in at number 14. This is the third studio album, the self-titled Deep Purple, the last one to be made by Mark I lineup. So it's our last appearance of Rod Evans and Nick Simper. First track, Chasing Shadows. I love the drumming from Mr. Pace on this. And Ritchie Blackmore's guitar work is fantastic. Even Nick Simper's bass is pretty good on this. Excellent track. Then we get Blind. Awesome track. Blackmore, Lord, Pace. This Deep Purple sound is really starting to form now. Terrific. Then we get a Donovan cover, Iain, great keyboards from John, and that's all I'll say about that one. Full line, very short, little bit of psychedelia from Purple, pretty cool as well. Then we get the Painter, awesome Hammond on this. Him and Richie sound great together on this, and they're starting to work out where they're going. Then we get the best track on here. This is probably Rod Evans' best performance on a Purple song. It's a great vocal. It's got a great. Musically, this is Purple. This is what we've come to love. Fantastic. Why didn't Rosemary is the best thing that Mark 1 ever did. The Bird Has Flown. Pretty mediocre. And the last track, another instrumental, great track. April. Again, that work between John Lord and Richie Blackmore is brilliant. As I said, this is the best album by Mark 1, without a doubt. Musically, the tracks are just, they have grown so much since that first album. And you knew that Evans' time was up. It's a shame they had to get rid of Nick Simper, but I think it was Gillan and Glover sort of come as a bit of a package. But I'll give this an RTO ranking of 8.3. Okay, coming in at number 13 then is the 19th album, released in 2013. Now What? This is the first album that released since 2005, so it's quite a long gap, and it features Ian Gillan, Steve Morse, Roger Glover, Don Airey and Ian Pace. First song on here is called A Simple Song. Love this. Great start. Roger Glover's bass line is really good. Weird is Stan, sorry. It's okay. It's not the best track. Out of Hand. Great vocal from Ian Gillan on this, and you got one of the legendary Roger Glover bass lines. Just come up with so many over the years, and this one's pretty good. Then we get Hell to Pay. Great little rocker this is. Great drumming from Mr. Pace. Got a catchy hook to this one, really good. Bodyline, one of those great Purple tracks with a deep Hammond sound. Don Airey on top form. Excellent keyboard player. Then we get the best track on the album, not just because it's a brilliant track, it's also the band's tribute to John Lord. Don Airey plays wonderful on this. Something that's straight out of the John Lord book of playing great keyboard. Roger's bass line is superb. The drumming from Ian Pace, as ever, and Ian's vocal is very special. You can hear him. There's a lot of emotion in there, and it's brilliant. Blood from a Stone. This just proves what a great singer that Ian Gillan is. He still can sing a great rock tune, even though the key has been put down to suit him. It does work well. Uncommon Man, another great track. Very good melody. I love it. Après Vous, another solid track. All the Time in the World, great blues guitar on this. It's got a little bit of country guitar in this as well, which are delicate tones, very good. Then we get the fantastic Vincent Price. I love that eerie start on the keyboard. You can just imagine some ghoulish man playing it, but it's Don Airey, of course. But it's a really good track. Then we get a cover of It'll Be Me, not a bad version. Very good album. Okay, it's only at number 13, but it's still a brilliant album. There are a couple of weak tracks on here, but the better tracks outweigh the weaker tracks on this one. And I'll give it an RTO ranking of 8.4. Okay, coming in at number 12. Bit controversial for this maybe for some people, but although I like this album, there's a reason why it's here. We're talking about the 9th studio album released in 1974, the second by the Mark III lineup, Stormbringer. Features, of course, David Coverdale, Ritchie Blackmore, John Lord, Glenn Hughes and Ian Pace. Opens up with the brilliant Stormbringer. Absolutely belting track. The keyboard from John on this is just awesome. Second track, Love Don't Mean a Thing. It's a nice song, but shouldn't be on a Purple album. I'll leave it at that because I might upset people. Third track, Holy Man. Again, it's a great track. I love it. It's too soulful for a Purple album. When I listen to Purple, I want some rock. Hold On. This is a good track. Very upbeat. The keyboard in this is brilliant from John. Top track. Then we get a really great rocker, Lady Double Dealer. Get Out of My Way. Great rock track. It's great live as well. Then we get You Can Do It Right with the One You'll Love. I don't like that at all. Never have. There's something about it that really... Eyeball Shooter. This isn't too bad. This actually is something that you're going to hear more of with Whitesnake as time goes on. That's why I do like that track. The Gypsy, classic track. Love this one. Nice guitar work from Ritchie on this. He's got a little bit more freedom on this one, I think. Soldier of Fortune ends the album. Beautiful song. One of the nicest things that Ritchie and David ever did together. Never seen Ritchie do it. I mean, I know he does it in Blackmore's Night. I think it sounds good. I've seen David sing it when I saw Whitesnake on the Purple tour. Still a lovely song. Okay, this album is a bit of a mixed bag. A bit controversial as well, I think. It seems like that David and Glenn took charge of Deep Purple, which I think frustrated Ritchie, which I think ultimately he left, obviously, after this tour. It's a shame, but I can understand where Ritchie was coming from. This was just too soulful, it just wasn't Deep Purple. But the tracks on here that I do like are absolutely belters. So I'll give it an RTO ranking of 8.5. Okay, coming in at number 11, we have the 18th album, released in 2005, Rapture of the Deep. Again, this is the Mark 8 band of Gillan, Morse, Airy, Glover, Pace. First track on the album, Money Talks. Solid track. Great opening riff. Really like that one. And Girls Like That. Another great start to the song. Great vocal from Iain. Third track, Wrong Man. My favourite. I love that driving riff on this. Some great touches on the keyboards from Don again, and Ian's vocal superb. Then we get the title track, Rapture of the Deep. Solid track, a little bit different, but it still sounds very good. Clearly quite absurd. This isn't too bad. Nice keyboards from Don Airy. Don't Let Go. I wouldn't say it's my favourite track on the album, but it's very pleasant. Back to back, solid track. Great drumming from Iain Pace. Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye. Good old fashioned purple track on this. The drumming is deep and heavy. Fantastic vocal from Mr. Gillan. Superb track. Junkyard Blues, another one of them solid rock blues songs from the band. Before Time Began, not my favourite on the album. I'm sorry. Okay, solid album. Like a lot of the tracks on here, but I just feel that there's some tracks on there that are a little bit weak. Still really hadn't found their touch as this lineup, but on the whole it's a good album. I'll give it an RTO ranking of 8.7. Okay then, let's move into the top 10, and coming in at number 10 we have the 10th studio album, released in 1975. Come Taste the Band. This is the last studio album before they disbanded, making it the only album then to feature Tommy Bolin, and the final to feature David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes. So our lineup for Mark 4 is Bolin, Coverdale, Hughes, Lord and Pace. First track, Coming Home. I love the start of this. It's just like everyone's getting ready to get rocking. I think it just fizzles out a little bit. Not the best track. I do like John Law's piano on this though. It's hard rocking piano. Lady Luck, classic track. John's keyboards are the main thing on this. Carries this song because the guitar work isn't particularly strong. Getting Tighter, not one of my favourite songs. I do struggle sometimes with Tommy Bolin. He wasn't the world's best guitarist, which is a shame. Dealer, I like this track, and I do like Tommy's guitar work on this. Very good, but of course it's that Rich Hammond that really carries this track. I Need Love, great vocal from David, great drumming from Iain, and some nice little touches from Tommy on this. And then what brings this track together though, again, John Lord. Drifter, pretty solid track. Solo's pretty good on that. Love Child, I would say this is Tommy Bolin's best performance. His guitar work on this is really good. Him and that deep rich Hammond from John at the beginning really sets this track off. Then we come to one of my favourite tracks on the album, written by Glenn Hughes and John Lord this time around. Glenn Hughes' finest vocal on a Deep Purple album. Don't think much towards G. I don't think that needed to be there, to be quite honest. Then we get the best track, the last track from Mark IV, Purple, You Keep On Moving. I love that eerie Hammond organ at the beginning. Glenn and David singing in good harmony, some nice guitar touches, and then Iain Pace just holds it together. This album is one of them albums that everyone forgets. This is certainly a lot better than Stormbringer. It's more rocky, I think. It's got more of a rock influence on it. There are a couple of tracks on there that are still soulful, but on the whole it's a really good album, and I'll give it an RTO ranking of 8.8. Okay then, coming in at number 9, we're up to the 20th album, released in 2017, Infinite, Mark 8 of Gillan, Morse, Glover, Pace, Airy. Opens up with a brilliant track called Time for Bedlam. I love the vocal effects on Ian's voice on this. Then it goes into a great little Deep Purple rocker. This is when this band really started to click, I think. Well, this lineup, because Mr. Airy and Mr. Pace are brilliant on this. Hip Boots, what a great vocal from Iain. And another one of Roger Glover's strong bass lines. Terrific track. All I Got Is You, brilliant work again from Iain Pace. Steve Morse's guitar work in this is brilliant. One Night in Vegas, another stonker. Great deep rich Hammond organ that you associate with Deep Purple's there. I love it. Get Me Out of Here. This is a great interplay between Don Airey, Steve Morse. Donny's such a great keyboard player. He was a perfect replacement for John. Couldn't think of anyone better. I remember when they announced it, I thought one great is retiring, but they've got the next best thing. Don's great anyway. I mean, he's played with so many great people, and I love his style as well. Again, another classical trained musician. The surprising, stunning track. Brilliant stuff. Johnny's Band, love that. Good story, great lyrics, great track. On Top of the World. This is just awesome again. I just can't give the praise for this Mark 8 version. Absolutely brilliant. Birds of Prey, my favourite track on this album. It's part jam, it's part song, it's brilliant. Great guitar solo from Steve Morse. Then they do a rather dodgy version of Roadhouse Blues. And then they end the album with Paradise Bar, solid track, bit funky, but great. This version of Deep Purple, the Mark 8, is seriously overlooked. This is a very strong album with some great tracks. I'll play this album to death. And I'll give it an RTO ranking of 8.9. Okay, coming in at number 8, we have the 15th studio album, released in 1996. It was the first that featured Steve Morse, ex-Dixie Dregs. So this is Gillan, Morse, Lord, Glover and Pace. Terrific album this is. Opens up with the brilliant Ted the Mechanic. Love that opening riff. Love that opening, and some guitar work there. Brilliant. Loosen My Strings. I love this track. The opening keyboards from John are so delicate. Then you get that lovely bass line, one of Roger's finest. And then you get some lovely guitar work from Steve Morse, already making an impact on this band. Soon Forgotten. More stunning keyboards from John. Again, Steve Morse riffing is absolutely out of this world. The Morse Lord combination just sounded great. Then we get my favourite track on the album, one of my favourite tracks by Deep Purple. Sometimes I feel like screaming. I love this. It's just that delicate keyboard from John. Great singing for Iain Gillan for me. One of his finest performances in the later years of Purple. And it's probably the last time we hear this great screeching. But Steve Morse's guitar work on this is absolutely out the top drawer. And it's just a classic track for me now. Cascades, I'm Not Your Lover. Another fine performance from John on this, of course. He is the governor, isn't he? Wonderful work on the keyboards on this track. The Aviator, quite semi-acoustic on here. Held together lovely, but again, John's wonderful keyboards. Rosa's Cantina. Oh, this is just going back to the 70s Purple. Roger Glover's deep bass boom is great. Great harmonica. That's what you expect. Brilliant track. A Cast Full of Rascals. Again, some harmonica on this. John's keyboard playing this does really stand out in this track. Touch Away, again, lovely guitar work and piano interplay between John and Steve. Hey Cisco, great drumming from Mr. Pace on this. Got these little jabs of keyboards from John, and Iain's vocals are on fire. Somebody Stole My Guitar, one of the weaker tracks on the album, I'd say, but it doesn't make it a bad one. Solid, the Perpendicular Wall, solid track, but it's very good. Okay, first album without Richie Blackmore. Steve Morse brings some freshness to the band, the tensions are gone, and it's a great album. And I'll give it an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 7. Currently this is the most up-to-date studio album of original music, released in 2020. Whoosh. Ian Gillan, Steve Morse, Roger Glover, Ian Pace, Don Airy. Throw My Bones. Oh, this has got such a catchy hook. Great riff, great track. Drop the Weapon, love that opening riff from Steve Morse. And then Don comes in on his keyboards, solid track. We're All the Same in the Dark, again Steve Morse is absolutely dynamite on this. Still a great guitarist, sounds fresh as a daisy as ever. Then we get a track called Nothing at All, probably one of the best tracks Mark 8 have ever recorded. It starts with that great bass line from Roger, and then you got some fabulous interplay between Steve and Don. And Iain again, fantastic vocal. No Need to Shout. It's got a great start from Don. Even John would have been proud of that one. Great track. Step by Step, some of Don's best keyboard on a Deep Purple track. Can't think of anyone better to replace John. Fantastic track this is. Obviously he worked with John on stage and then he permanently took over. He is a fabulous keyboard player in his own right. What the What? This is just rock and roll. It's great. The Long Way Round. Again, Steve Morse drives this song along with some great riffs. Ian Pace keeping that bass, that deep Hammond from Don Airy makes it a great track. The Power of the Moon, probably the weakest track album. It just drags a bit. Remission Possible, short, sweet, bit of showboating from Don Airy and Steve Morse, having a twiddle. It's great. Just a bit of a jam. I don't know if it was a jam that they just decided to put on the album, but it sounds pretty good. Man Alive, another solid track, one of my favourites. Then they do a remake of And the Address. And they do a damn good version of it. I've got no problem with that. Dancing in My Sleep, it's the last track. Bit funky, got a bit of a slappy bass with this, and it works. Don Airy sounds good. This is the best album for Mark 8, without a doubt. It's their best album probably since Perfect Strangers. Again, this version of Deep Purple is highly overlooked, and I say it's the second best version of Deep Purple. And I give this album an RTO ranking of 9.1. Okay then, coming in at number 6. 7th studio album, released in 1973. Who do we think we are? This was the last album to feature Ian Gillan and Roger Glover until 1984. So it's the classic lineup: Blackmore, Gillan, Glover, Lord, Pace. Opens up with the brilliant Woman from Tokyo. Love that opening riff. Love the drums from Iain on this. Sounds fantastic. And then you get that little bit of piano in the middle before you go back into the main song. Fantastic. Mary Long, love this track. Sticks the fingers up at the establishment. As we know, the song's a combination of Mary Whitehouse and Lord Longford. Great keyboard solo on this from John. Super Trooper, very overlooked track. Great track. Got some really good keyboard work from John on that. Smooth Dancer, it's a solid enough song. It's probably the weakest song on the album, but it's still a good track. Then we get my favourite track on this album, Rat Bat Blue. I just love it. One of John Lord's best keyboard solos for a start, and the Pace and Lord and Glover on this are just blinding, and Richie puts a fine performance in as well. It's just a great track. Place in Line, one of them great deep bluesy, Deep Purple tracks. Love it. Our Lady, another forgotten track. The Hammond solo on this is top drawer stuff. Brilliant. This album is one of them albums that's forgotten about because there's a little bit of tension again, but not as much tension as the Battle Rages on. I love this album. It's a great Purple album and deserves to be where it is in my ranking. So I'll give it an RTO ranking of 9.2. Okay, then coming in at number 5, we have the 11th studio album, released in 1984. It's the Reformed Mark II, the most successful album of the Reformed Deep Purple Mark II. It's the first studio album in 9 years, and it's the first in 11 years from Mark II. It's the brilliant Perfect Strangers. Don't have to tell you who's on it. It's that classic lineup, Mark II. First track, Knocking on at the Back Door, from that opening guitar keyboard, that bum 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 bum. Great bass line from Roger, truly a classic song. Great guitar solo from Mr. Blackmore. Next up, Under the Gun. Oh, Richie's on fire on this. He's absolutely blowing the cobwebs away. Just nice that there was getting on. Didn't last long, but for one album it really did click again, and that's why this track is brilliant. Nobody's Home, love that keyboard intro from John. Then you get that great riff and drum bit from Ian Pace with the cowbell, absolutely spot on. Mean Streak, great vocal from Ian, sounds brilliant on that. Good solid rocker. Then we get the brilliant Perfect Strangers. I just love that intro. I love that middle bit with that dum da da dum da da dum da da dum dum dum. Fine track, one of the best. And it still carries on with some great tracks. A Gypsy's Kiss, from that opening bass line to that great bit of drumming at the beginning, and then you've got John's keyboard, Richie's guitar playing. Mark II on fire. Wasted Sunsets. I love this. The bluesy track, Ian Gillan's fine vocal, and one of Richie Blackmore's finest guitar solos. Absolutely stunning. Then we get Hungry Days. It's alright. I'm not very keen on that one though. Not Responsible. We had to buy the cassette to get this. We all brought the album, then there was another track that was only on the cassette at the time, so we all went and brought that as well. Not Responsible is a great track. First time you ever hear swearing on a Deep Purple track as well. Great album, great comeback. Unfortunately, the Mark II never really sparkled afterwards, did it? But we're thankful for this album because it is a classic album for Mark II. and I'll give it an RTO ranking of 9.3. Okay then, coming in at number 4 is the 5th album, released in 1971, the second of the Mark II lineup of Gillan, Blackmore, Glover, Pace, Lord. It's Fireball. Opening track, title track. Love this. A lot of people say this is one of the first thrashiest, heaviest tracks ever. John Lord's keyboard solo, and this is just fantastic. Iain, it's one of Iain Paice's finest drum performances as well. Fantastic. Second track, No No No. Love this track. It's got some of the greatest interplay between Richie and John. Fabulous track. Then we get the brilliant Demon's Eye. From that start, that great track, great solo on the keyboards, Hammond organ. Then we get Anyone's Daughter, a little bit of nonsense, lovely piano work from John. I saw them, they did this live on that ill-fated show in 90 wherever it was. To watch John and Richie on this was fantastic. I mean, all through the animosity and the tensions, John and Richie never really fell out. They were the masterminds of this band. It was lovely to see. It was just, that was the highlight of the concert, watching Richie go up to the keyboards, and they were just having some fun. Brilliant track. People don't like it, I love it. Then we get the Mule, again the Iain Paice's masterpiece, and it's just all about Richie and Iain on this. Brilliant. Then we get another of my favourite tracks, Fools. I love the guitar work from Richie on this. Great drumming, and again the little bits of the keyboard from John are truly amazing. Then we get my favourite track on the album, No One Came. That brilliant bass line at the start, the great deep sounding organ just sounds brilliant. Fantastic track. Okay, again this is a very underrated album because it comes in between two other albums. And John Lord has said this on camera. He loves Fireball because he said if you didn't have In Rock, you wouldn't have had Fireball, and if you hadn't got Fireball, you wouldn't have had Machine Head. He's absolutely right. Some great tracks on here. People say this was a bit of a rushed album. I don't think it is. It's got some solid tracks on it, and I love every single one of them. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.4. Okay, coming in at number 3, it's an album that we've already featured on RTO in classic albums. It's the 8th album, released in February 74. First that featured Glenn Hughes and David Coverdale. It is Burn. I'm not going to say too much about this one because we've already done this one at depth. It's got Burn on it. Again, it's one of my favourite tracks. Might Just Take Your Life. I love that great keyboard from John on that. Great track. Lay Down, Stay Down. Great rocker. Piano on this from John is just top drawer. Sail Away. Never, as I said before, never one of my favourites. But the best thing about this is the interplay between John and Richie. Then we have You Fool No One again. We've already discussed this. Iain Paice's drumming on this is phenomenal. Fast, heavy track. Then we get What's Going On Here. Fine vocal from David and Glenn. Mistreated, you know how I feel about this. I like the structure. It's just a bit self-indulgent from Richie Blackmore, goes on too long. And it ends up with A200. Always found this a bit of a filler. It's an amazing album, some really good tracks on it, and as I did in the classic album, I'm giving it, obviously it's going to still get the same RTO ranking of 9.5. Now, these two last albums, boy did it give me some grief to actually try and get 1-2 on this. Took a lot, this did. There's 2 out, I had to play them 3 or 4 times and really critique them. In the end I went with this version. So coming in at number 2, it's the 6th album, released in March 72, Machine Head. Blackmore, Gillan, Glover and Lord and Pace. Opens up with my second favourite song ever, Highway Star. Just love this. You've got 2 great solos. You've got that great first solo you get is John Lord's solo, spot on, brilliant. And then the second solo is Richie Blackmore's, truly an amazing track, great vocal from Iain. I love this song for so many reasons. It's always one of my favourites, but it's very special to me because it's the first song I ever heard them do live. It blew me away. Okay, second song, Maybe a Leo. Quirky little track, some great keyboard work from John, fantastic. Then we get another brilliant track, Pictures of Home. Brilliant track, love this. I love Ian Pace's drumming on this. Again, and you've got a great bass line, especially this little bit of solo that Roger does. I am so glad that when I saw them at Milton Keynes, they opened with this. I love the keyboards from John, and when I saw them do it, Don did a great job. And the interplay both between John and Richie on this is brilliant, and it was with Steve and Don at Milton Keynes. Fantastic track. Never Before. I've never been keen on this one, and I think this is the one that actually kept this album off number 1, because I'm not very keen on that. From the next track, Smoke on the Water. There's not much you can say about this. One of the most iconic opening riffs of a song, but I'm afraid this song is one of them songs, if I never hear it again, I don't get upset about it. Overplayed. Then we get the brilliant Lazy, some of John's finest keyboard work. I just love this track, how it builds up into a great bluesy song. And the album ends with a brilliant track, Space Trucking. That opening keyboard from John is terrific. Lots of screeching and howling from Mr. Gillan. It's an absolutely fantastic track. And I love the keyboard solo on that Hammond on this. I mean, when it's live, it goes into a legend. We'll talk about the live version of that on another show. So, an amazing album. Still up there as a great track. Classic tracks all round. Even Smoke on the Water. Classic. And I give it an RTO ranking of 9.7. So, number 1. I think everyone's guessed. And I know it's everybody's favourite Purple album, and it's there for a reason. Obviously it's Deep Purple in rock. 4th album, released in 1970. When the great album opens up with Speed King. You put that on and all you get is that noise, that heavy noise of keyboards, drums, screeching guitars. And then it goes quiet and you get that lovely Hammond organ from John. And then it comes in at 1,000 miles an hour, boom, and then some screeching vocals from me and just top the track off. Unbelievable track, love it. Second track, Bloodsucker. This is the proper version, not that redo version. Absolutely brilliant. Deep, heavy screeching from Gillan. Tremendous drumming. Great riffs. John's just flying around that keyboard. Unbelievable. Then we get the classic, my favourite song. Okay, it's everybody's, but again, it's for a reason, because it is brilliant. It's Child in Time. From that great opening on the keyboards, tremendous soloing from Richie. Gillan's voice on this is just unbelievable. It's truly up there with one of the greatest rock songs ever. Then we get another brilliant track, Flight of the Rat. Opens up with that great heavy bass line thumping away, then you just get a free-for-all jam. Unbelievable track. Into the Fire, classic track. More deep, rich Hammond organ. The guitar work from Richie is fabulous, and even more screeching from Gillan. Living Wreck, John Lord on fire. He just goes into another world. Brilliant. Then we get Hard Loving Man, driven by Roger Glover's bass line and the Hammond again from John. Screeching, it's just a constant riff from Richie. Great guitar solo. Blows your head off every time you listen to it. It's an album I just don't get tired of listening to. It is one of the greatest albums ever made. Every track on this album is just class. It's 100 and from start to finish we've got 100 miles an hour rock. Brilliantly produced, brilliant playing. And what can you say about this album except give it an RTO ranking of 10 out of 10. Well, that was a long one, wasn't it, folks? But when you're talking about one of your favourite bands, and I know a lot of you guys are really into Deep Purple, it's always a joy to talk about one of the best bands ever. So that's it for today. This is going to take a little while to sort out. So tomorrow, what we got for you tomorrow? Well, we have got Then and Now. We're looking at Motley Crue. I've actually watched their movie on Netflix called The Dirt. It's alright, but I thought, well, have a look at their very illustrious career. They made some good songs and they made some bad songs. And tomorrow's album cover, it's actually a viewer's request. Someone watched the one we did on Pink Floyd last week and he suggested, would you do Mike Oldfield's? And I went, yes, no problem. So we're going to look at all the album covers, well, the official ones of Mike Oldfield. So that's all tomorrow. Have a great day, or whenever you, an evening if you're watching this in the evening, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care for now.